for coming out. This is one of my favorite front stage productions that we've been able to put on since we've renovated Severance. We have a lot of people that I've been able to speak to. Nonetheless, we do have Mr. Brian White himself. Start up there, Frank.
Thank you all for coming.
Now, was it difficult for you to be acting opposite of somebody that you're so familiar with? Were you able to get out of the character, or did it mess you up, or was that easier for you because of that relationship?
So you guys have some backstory. Claudia is from Providence, Rhode Island. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. She was an exceptional track star. And I played my sports, football, lacrosse, and basketball. And so we knew each other. She was AAU, I was AAU. She was a great athlete. And so we were very aware of each other as kids. We reconnected in LA because she was still in that sports world. I was playing for the NBA Entertainment League, and she was doing traveling games with us. So we became friends right away. She called me up and said, Mike Montaser and her were working on an incredible script and asked me if I would read it. 25 years after we had met, and within 10 pages into the script, I called her back and go, where did you find this? I've never read anything like this. And she said, well, I want you to play my husband, help us get it made, and come meet Mike. And the backstory for Claudia and my relationship actually became, one of the things that's great about independent films, as opposed to working on studio films, is we get to have input, get to be part of the creative process. When you're hired by a studio, when you're hired by a network, show up, shut up, and do your job. When you're hired on an independent film, you get asked your opinions a lot more. And Claudia and my backstory is very conducive to this story because this couple's been together over 20 years. So Claudia and I were able to say, well, what if we had been dating from the time we met and had all this history that we already have, but it was replacing Claudia for my current wife. We've been together 14 years, but it was, if there was never another woman since I met Claudia 25 years ago for real. There's a lot of pain and a lot of damage for the guy that just passes up everything else in his life and says, this is the one I'm gonna invest everything, but she didn't make that same choice. And it was putting myself in that position, because if my wife, if I woke up tomorrow, my wife, I found out that was my reality, I really don't know how much different from Frank I might end up being. So, the movie was a fun chance to explore putting yourself in that position. Because I might have some of those same reactions. I can't even fathom it. I mean, 25 years, wow. Anyway, but that was the work that Claudia and I were doing when we were going through.
But at this time, instead of me hogging, Brian, I want to open up questions to everybody in the room.
Do you have a dream role that you want to play or a dream project that you want to create?
Not one, but several. My family, one of the areas that we were very aware of and came from, on my mom's side, is Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I'm extremely interested in Black Wall Street stories being told. As it relates simply to ambitions. And in our story, Robin's family's had money for 3 generations, 7 figures of money. That comes from a generation that had money since Black Wall Street. But that's not even in our history books. Right. So making those kind of movies so that kids know from whence we came is paramount to me, because I've always known. My grandparents made sure I knew. I had my dad's side that were all, they were the exemptions. When in 1931, when the KKK and the government came in and burned down Tulsa, Oklahoma, we had 2 things that we could do as brown people. We could bury ourselves, become morticians, or we could become pastors. My family owns 18 mortuaries and a church in St. Louis, Missouri. We became the 2 exemptions, and my grandmother made sure I knew what that title was. So those are the stories. Buffalo soldier stories, the Harlem Hellfighters, everything that happened basically from 1871 to 1936 are the stories I want to cover, because it's what's been erased systematically from our history books. You can't get a public school to talk about these things right now. And if you don't know where you came from, there's no way to know where you're going, which is why we have so much confusion in our community. So those are the stories that are important to me to tell, regardless of whether I'm the lead or not. I really just want to produce them.
Thank you.
I commend your grind. You guys have been very, very busy. Very, very busy. And I love what you produced here. For upcoming actors, as a director, upcoming actors in this area, in the Midwest area, you gave great advice right there. Maybe you can repeat yourself again or give an additional. how would you encourage them? What advice could you give them coming up independently in this area of what to do to get themselves into that world, that industry? Everyone dreams, every actor dreams to be in that industry. What would you say to, what advice would you give them?
Film something yourself. I'm from Boston, so I'm not from a place where I didn't grow up thinking that this industry was possible. I went to college first, had a different job, worked on Wall Street, and then when I was 22, found the industry. But these days, and my family's from the Midwest. We're from Topeka, Kansas, and St. Louis, Missouri. Pretty much all my family went to KU. My sister, my youngest sister, is 26, Jamie White, and she just directed and produced and financed her own first film after 2 years in LA not having success. I got her a bunch of big auditions, and they didn't go. And so she had to get back in the lab and work on her craft, and I told her, make your own. You write really well, you have great ideas. You weren't ready to be the star you wanted to be today. I wasn't ready when I got to LA either. But you could build up to that and you could do a lot of other things. She was like, you're right. She wrote, produced, and directed her own thing. CAA screened it last week and she got an agent from it. So I would suggest the same thing in this market. Make your own. You know, there's a lot of great producers. There's one right here, local, financiers that are looking for great material and great talent. So, you know, it certainly doesn't take a trip to LA or New York to become great talent. So if there's a financier here, the only thing preventing the people in this room from making the movie that's going to get them their big break is developing and honing their craft in classes or local theater or whatever it is. And do believe and trust that you have to walk before you can run.
What do you do in between projects to kind of better your craft or something?
Create more projects.
Create more.
Yeah, no, well, I do a lot of things. My family gets a big allotment of the time. Like I sit down with my wife and we try to plan out our year in advance and say, what are the family trips? What are the family things that are important? When's the time that I can't work? So with my downtime, those two things, finding pots of money and creating content scripts, has been where I spend all the time that's not with my family.
Awesome. Thank you.
I mean, film acting is a spoiled job. You know, we work an hour, 2 hours a day, and you get all the money on a big studio movie. You know, it's a very good life. But to be a Denzel, he does theater every year. That's why they made Fences. He went back and did it every single year. When I did Chicago, one of the things I noticed about the British actors, you know, and everybody's pissed that they take our job, they're better. They train harder. They do theater. That's it. They don't have a movie industry. So those people are all Shakespeare. Like, you want Idris to do Shakespeare, he'll give you 10 different Othellos. You know, that's harder for most American actors because we don't all go through this theater process. So I think it's necessary to have a theater background, but the preference is to get into film. You know, but you can't get away from the preparation that is theater if you're going to be a great film actor. Even if you're Viola Davis, Meryl Streep, you know, Kerry Washington, they've all done Broadway within the past 2 years. They always will, because the acting's better. And they want to be the best. And to be the best, you have to compete with the best. So it's like if a basketball player went and played in the CBA, he'd summer in the NBA to make sure, yeah, I'm still a shit, but I'm over here doing this. But I know I can prove myself over there. That's what Broadway is. That's what theater acting is. It's where the real people go. There's no second takes. There's people sitting right here. There's no makeup. There's no tear sticks. That like that was good or it wasn't. And you know what they think. It's the real world, and that's why I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you again when I come back to Cleveland.